diversity invites passion. When you have people from different walks of life, they bring a different passion and a different energy. It's okay to sound African. It's okay to like weird food because we eat some weird stuff like that. It's okay to be who you are. That doesn't define your career or how far you have to go in life.
Hello everyone, my name is Sia and I'm a co-founder of Colour Research, also known as Core. Today I will be hosting the second episode of our series, Success Stories, and today's guest is Peter Chulu, all the way from Serbia, joining us today. And he's the Managing Director and founder of Fieldscope International. Welcome, Peter.
Thanks, Sia. Thanks for having me.
Would you like to introduce yourself to all of our viewers? Give us some information on Fieldscope International and what your role is in the business.
So Fieldscope International, it started in 2009, but was incorporated in 2012. It's a global fieldwork company. We have offices now in London, New York, and Sofia, which is in Bulgaria. The core essence of it is that we provide fieldwork companies, consulting companies, and clients with data and fieldwork for healthcare, business to business, and consumer panels.
Amazing. That sounds brilliant. And you are based in Serbia?
See, I mean, now I am, but it depends on where I'm needed. Personally, I prefer the seaside, but if I'm not by the seaside, I'm usually in Serbia or in London, New York. My wife usually goes there because she's also working in the business. So it's usually mainly the Balkan region or London.
And what's your role with Fieldscope International? What do you do there?
I'm the managing director, actually founder of the company. So I started the company in 2009. I've been working 6 or 7 years in the industry, and then I decided that I'll go on my own and started becoming a recruiter.
A bit about yourself. So would you like to tell us a bit about your background, where you grew up, where do you come from?
Okay, so I was born in Malawi. Malawi, for those people that don't know, it's one of the poorest countries in the world, but also one of the happiest countries in the world. In fact, the nickname of Malawi is Warm Heart of Africa. It may not have the diamonds and the gold. It certainly has a lot of smiley faces and happy people. So that's where I was born. I'm now 34, so I was born in 1985. A bit about myself is my father passed away when I was, I think, less than 1. My mother raised myself and my sister. My sister is 4 years older than me. She's also in the industry. And growing up was tough. Not only because I didn't have a father, but just because it's not easy to grow up in Malawi. Especially if you're growing up in a household where it's just your mom looking after you, it can get a bit tough. We didn't starve by any means. I mean, she did the best she could, and one thing that she really did see is she gave me a good education, and that I'm really grateful about, because I believe in Africa the best thing you can give to a son or a daughter is a good foundation, and not only just a good education, but a good education in the right institute. She worked really hard to educate myself and my sister. I went to a school called St. Andrews, which was an international school. It had many faces: blue, pink, green, black. By that I mean it was a multiracial high school and primary school as well that I went to. The reason I'm saying that is because I was rather fortunate as opposed to other Malawians, because every now and then these international schools, the school fees are really extortionate, but they try to give back to the community by maybe picking a few local kids and subsidize the school fees. By no means at all did I grow up with a silver spoon. In fact, we were actually struggling growing up. But because these British schools, because Malawi is a British colony, they came into Malawi and they started off, but they said, look, I know the fees are a bit too high for the locals, so let's take on a few and give them a chance to have a good education. And I was one of those few, because usually people ask me, well, if it was so difficult, how come you were able to afford such a school? But it was because it was subsidized. Having done my high school in St. Andrews International, when I was the age of 14, which I did my O-levels, my mom at the time said, you know what, I've done my bit. That's it. I don't think I've got any more juice in the tank. So she retired. At that age, I had to make ends meet on my own. Basically, it's a typical story. I mean, I always say this, that when I say it in England or in Serbia or maybe in the West, it sounds a bit harsher than what it was. But this storyline is very typical from where I'm from. Kids have to look after parents all the time. In fact, it's strange when you see parents looking after kids age of 30 in the UK, because we don't grow up like that. There's a certain age where that's it, you're a man. So what happened is at the age of 14, when she stopped working, I decided to start a business. I was buying maize. So Mozambique and Malawi, right? So you have Mozambique and you have Malawi. Malawi borders Mozambique. It's all landlocked, so there's no sea or anything. There was an opportunity back then where you could buy maize. You buy maize in its rawest form in Mozambique, and you sell it in Malawi. But the border is simply just a line. So when I was thinking in my young age, I was thinking, wow, so you're telling me if I buy maize across that line and I sell the same maize on this side, I sell it for $1.50. So I gathered my funds at the time. And yeah, that's how I started really trying to save up for my trip to the UK, because my mom at the time, she couldn't.
A young businessman from heart, from the beginning.
Yeah. It's to be honest with you, I mean, this even spans into my high school. There was a time in high school when I used to sell mobile phones around school. So I would get
which
them.
Models?
It was the 5110s. Do you remember the Nokias?
The Nokias, yeah.
The 5110s. There was one called I think it was a V series Motorola, a flip phone, really expensive. I mean, that's it, because I was going to school with these rich kids, right?
Oh, I see. Okay.
So they are, their parents are usually, maybe Asian businessmen that have been settled in Malawi, or maybe, South African white folks that have come in and work in agriculture. So they're not without.
Yeah.
So anyways, fast forward a couple of years after gathering enough funds, I booked my ticket to London, actually, with a few help of uncles and aunties here and there. And I remember that time, see, as well, it was you needed the visa process. I'm sure a lot of ethnic people who've migrated to England will relate to this. You needed to have a certain amount of money in your account to be able to get a visa. And of course I didn't. So I remember using my auntie's, one of my auntie's auntie, everyone's an auntie there, the bank statements, and going to the visa office and, saying, yeah, this is where I'm going for university, I think it was college then, East London College, that was, and that was it, really. You gathered your pennies and you hope for a better life. So it wasn't because I had some sort of scholarship or university waiting for me. It was just escaping poverty from Malawi and crossing over the sea to come into England.
Yeah, and I guess that is the reason then for many ethnic people, I think, that come to the UK. That is their story. Was London always the place you wanted to be? Was that the dream? No.
Back then it was either Australia. The US was a big migrating place for Malawians, especially a place like Atlanta or somewhere where it's quite ethnic. New Zealand was too far off. But London, the reason why I picked London is because a few years before, my mum had sold a piece of land and had done the same with my sister and said, look, I've managed to raise a bit of money. You pick and choose where you want to go. And she happened to pick England because that's, I think, one of our cousins had said something nice about it. So I was pretty much following the footsteps of what she did. And that's why I chose England, I would say.
It's amazing how you can make those kind of decisions at such a young age as well, and take that responsibility. But yeah, I mean, amazing story and journey for you. So this leads me on to my third question. So a lot of people say they fell into market research. Is that the truth for you, or was it market research something you always had your eye on?
No. Who says they
I was
want to be
hoping for a glamorous story there.
No. No, it's not like I study statistics. I dropped into market research because it was the easiest job to get at the time. Even now, I believe call centers in whatever industry, not just in our industry, they're always recruiting. It's a very difficult job, and it can be a bit traumatizing mentally if you work in a call center for a long time. So the turnover is quite high. I dropped into market research purely because it was the first job that came into my peripheral.
Oh, really? So it's the only industry you've worked in then?
Yes, believe it or not.
Apart from maize and selling phones, market
Yes,
research.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
wow.
I mean,
Okay, that's interesting.
later time in my career, I've done something else, but really, I mean, I've been in this for good 15, 20 years now.
Okay. Well, you must enjoy it then.
Yeah, it's been kind. It's been kind to me. I think you have to. That's why we sat here, because when something has kept you for so long, and when you've managed to go from A to B and made your contacts, give back. So I enjoy what I do. It's what I know, and yeah, I'd recommend it. I really do. I
Yeah.
enjoy market research.
Yeah, I remember when I first met you in Munich, you were so passionate about what you do, you know, walking around with your vlog camera, and yeah, it was nice to see. You know, it's nice to be in an industry where people enjoy what they do, and you know, it's such a social industry as well.
I enjoy breaking it. I enjoy, pushing dynamics and, doing
Yeah.
something that has been done before. So yeah, it's good. I like pushing boundaries in this industry. It's nice.
So looking back and looking through your career journey, I mean, do any obstacles come into mind where, you know, you've kind of overcome and it's been an achievement for you?
I mean, I did my 6 to 7 years in Ipsos and Fieldfax and Slazenger and Research House. And then in 2009, when I decided to go back to university and do a different degree altogether, because I did IT and it was college and this, and I said, look, I need a solid degree, mathematical degree. And so I did banking, I did building service engineering, actually, at South Bank Uni. So during that time, that's when I started Fieldscope International. But I run it for about, I think, a good 6 to 7 years in the UK. And then I realized that our prices haven't increased in the last decade, at least. The cost per recruit for a doctor or a cost per recruit for a specialist, a patient, or a B2B respondent has been the same. But the costs of operating a company is constantly increasing. You have inflations, you have rentals going up, you have salaries going up, your VAT is due. Used to, I think, but back in the days, if I'm not mistaken, you used to have to pay VAT every 6 months, and then it reduced to 3 months. I realized that I needed to expand. I needed to do exactly the same thing that I did when I was 14. I needed to buy the maize from across the border and sell it in Malawi, yes? So I needed to find the market where I was able to operate at a reasonable cost, but without compromising the quality, because the research industry still demands the same quality at the same price. So that's why my whole move to Serbia happened, because I realized that if I change the game plan and if I move some of the operations to Serbia and to Sofia, not by any means did I do that move just because of cost, but also because of the talented people that are here, I will be able to do the same service or even better with a bigger team and a better quality. So I guess to answer your question, milestones or challenges that I've overcome was to understand that you need to sell the maize across the border in order to get a better value, a better cost value for it.
And I can imagine that was a big risk for you to move, you know, offices to Serbia and to make that personal change as well, moving from London to Serbia, which I can imagine would, you know, must have been a big difference for you.
It was, but because of being African and coming from Malawi and going through what I went through, it was easier than Malawi. So business-wise, I think I'm always, you know, given a bit of credit about doing that. But for me, it was a case of survival. You know, it was a case of something you have to do. So challenging, yes, but you just have to be cold about it and calculate.
For sure. Cool. So going on to questions coming more closer to our mission with CORE. In terms of your ethnic background and taking that into consideration, have you had to adapt or change in any way for the market research industry? And could you maybe give us some examples of what that looked like for you?
This is still a very sensitive topic, I think, across the globe. And to be honest with you, racial challenges are individual. I think, you know, what's going on in the States that's their battle. What goes on in the research industry, that's our battle. What goes on in Africa, that's a different battle. But personally, I can only speak on what I've felt and what I've found in my career, being who I am and being ethnic, is that I had to adapt with my accent. I imposed an insecurity of myself that I had to sound a certain way in order to be accepted. It wasn't necessarily something that somebody had said outright, but looking around and hearing the different accents and maybe even following in footsteps of people that I wanted to become or maybe half achieve or what they've achieved, they sounded different from how I sound. It's not that somebody had told me that I had to change or adapt. It's just an insecurity that I saw based on what was around me. So I think accent was the first thing that I had to really change in order to sound like the people that were around me at the time.
And was that like a subconscious thing? So was it something that you kind of just did without really acknowledging? Or was this like a decision you made, you know, hearing people speak that way and feeling, you know, that's just how you had to speak to fit in?
Look, the thing about being ethnic is different if you're ethnic in England and if you're ethnic from Africa, because we have two challenges there, yes? Diversity and segregation or challenges people go is very specific to people, right? So the issues that we have, or that I had as an African, is not only did I have to fit into a different world with my ethnicity, but also as African. So I had to at least jump that gap to say, look, polish up the accent before we start everything else, you know? So it was, it's something that I just felt I needed to do to succeed, and to really fit in to the industry and to the surrounding that I was actually faced with when I was in England or London at the time.
Mm. And have you come to a point in your career where you look back and you think, actually, you know, I don't want to change the way I sound or speak or even look, for that matter?
Yeah, and I think this is it. It's if I'm looking back at a young Peter, right, and I'm saying, look, what is it that you can tell yourself back then? I would say it's okay. It's okay to sound African. It's okay to like weird food because we eat some weird stuff back there, you know. It's okay to be who you are. That doesn't define your career or how far you have to go in life. So yeah, I think that's what I would remind myself, or I'd tell myself, that it's, don't change. Be exactly who you are, because that's unique on its own.
Yeah, and I can imagine that took, you know, quite a long time for you to kind of, you know, acknowledge and accept now having your own business and, you know, feeling more comfortable. Are there any examples apart from, you know, accent that you might want to share with everyone?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, you see, my challenge is ongoing. I am in Serbia probably the only, if not only, one of the few Black people that either own a business or maybe are even owning anything of any value, because the struggle is real even here. So I am still fighting the battle. I'm still looking to be accepted. My son's now mixed. Probably I'm trying to fight for him now, because I need to educate the people around the community that Black is actually okay. It's not everybody that's our race needs to you know, get either funding or support, or, you know, even speaking eloquently. It's okay. People are different, you know. So my battles are every day. It's not only in market research but also in geographic. It's this awareness that we're trying to push out, including this interview, is just to show people that ethnicity or color of the skin, it's just a color. It doesn't matter how your hair is or how different you are. You can still achieve what you can achieve in life, regardless of whatever race you are. That's something that I think I'm going to forever try to change, for my son's sake as well.
So it's emotional hearing you speak of those things. You know, bringing awareness is the first step. You know, just showing that diversity is normal, and it should be normal. It's not something that we should be fighting for, or, you know, even have an initiative for. It should, you know, something that should already be integrated and a part of the industry. But yeah, so moving on to our sixth question. Do you feel like your ethnicity has had an impact on your career opportunities?
You know, I'm going to go back to the beginning of the interview, and I said I went to a school that was international. Yes, I really believe that we have to start mixing people at a very young age. We need to start educating the youth and the young about different races and different colors. The answer is no. I don't feel that my color has has had any sort of impact, only because of the background that I had. Going to British International School, it helped me understand the differences at a very young age and accept them at a very young age. The problem is here is that when you don't have people who've had maybe the privilege of having that kind of background, and then you throw them in the industry, and perhaps the first thing they think is it because of that? Because maybe I am already seeing it, that there's a big divide, you know? We have to address racism, but there will be a time when all races have to accept and know that let's mix it up as much as possible so we don't even see color, if that makes sense. So at the moment, yes, there is a lot of divide. There's a lot of, clubs and circles and this, that, but we need to we need to move on from it very quickly at some stage, but let's fix it first so we can move on.
And I'm guessing it's more of a personal thing where you didn't let it affect you, and it didn't affect your journey or, your opportunities for that case.
Yes. But it is tangible. It's there. But you have to change, especially from an ethnic position. When I'm talking to my son, I will teach him to see it differently, because it definitely is going to hold him back if he doesn't understand it at a young age. It's apparent, it's real, but we have to find solutions.
Yeah, definitely. I think from, hitting the nail from an early age, from a young age is really important. And so moving on to a more philosophical question, what do you know now that you'd wished you'd known before? So looking back at young Peter, and if he was there right in front of you now, what would you say to him?
You know what? See, the thing about it is this. I realize in life that people don't change, right? Who you are at the age of 14 is who you're going to be at the age of 34, right? My thinking process hasn't changed. I still like my space. I still like to meditate. I still like to be alone and to manifest a thought process and to make it real, and then to speak it and to actually envision it and actually make it a reality. Who I was then is who I was now. The only difference is I wish somebody would have told me that it's okay. You're not crazy for thinking and dreaming the way you dream. To really tell myself that you're not crazy for being a 14-year-old and thinking that you can actually make it in life. You're not alone in the way you're thinking, and it's okay to think you can be better than today, and to dream a little bit. So I think that's what I would tell my younger self. It's fine. It's okay. You're not crazy.
Awesome. And have you had any mentors in this successful career journey that you've had? Have you had anyone on your side that you've always gone to for advice and who's helped you along the way?
To be honest with you, I've been waiting to mention his name for so long because he really helped me a lot. It was the time when I got my first loan with startup loans, government scheme that I think one of the dragons, his name was Mr. Khan. Everyone knows, I forget his first name, but he was part of an initiative that empowered young people to give them loans to start businesses. I think it's still going on up to now. But part of this scheme was that you were assigned a mentor that the government thought was maybe in line with your vision and your mission and what you're going to achieve. There was an older fellow there, his name was David Duncan, and he really took me under his wing. He really, we played golf together. I remember in Hertfordshire, every time I used to meet him up and say, you know what, I'm in trouble. I'm trying to think how I can do this. How can I meet salaries? How can I pay my VAT? Because I remember first 5 years of business, very difficult. But without, I only found this out later on, he wasn't being paid for this. He wasn't having any sort of like incentive. He just, out of the goodness of his heart, he really just guided me in my career path and really gave me the tools that I needed to move on in life. And to be honest with you, David, this is for you. If you're watching this, if it wasn't for your guidance, I don't know where I would be. I'll probably, because I'm a stubborn guy, I'll probably still be somewhere trying to sell maize or mobile phones. But you really pushed me in the right direction. So yeah, that mentor really, for me, that was I never had a father figure, and he really helped me in business.
That's beautiful. And I think the essence of, any mentor, I think, is just having that pure intention to just give back and help, and not being paid for it, but just really wanting to change someone's life and, seeing a difference and, molding them and helping them. And I think it's such a beautiful thing to have mentors in your career. And it's so important as well. And thank you for joining CORE's mentorship program. I know you're one of our mentors and you've spoken at our CORE launch. What made you want to become a mentor?
I want to give it a bit of a different spin. Like I mentioned, I wish somebody would have told me it's okay to be different. It's okay to have gone through the struggles you've gone through. It's fine. Being different is special. Being different is actually unique. Use it to your advantage because you're different. So my mentoring will go on an angle of, as opposed to focusing on maybe some of the real negative issues that are there, and I'm not dismissing those. I just want to remind a younger version of me that let's switch it up a bit. Let's use it as a weapon. Let's use it as an advantage. Let's see it as a positive. Because all people that know me is I usually see the glass as half full. So for me is I really just want to remind people that have gone through similar challenges that, you know what, this could be something good if you look at it from this angle. That's why I joined, seeing what's happening in, just across the ocean there in the States. I see on the news there's a lot of, violence, there's a lot of divide, there's a lot of anger behind this topic. But maybe if we look at it differently, it may help someone in a different manner, like I was helping when I was a kid. So that's my angling on it. I'm not ignoring the tangible hurdles that we have, but I want to think different.
Yeah, have your own spin on it. And aside from the core mentorship program, have you done any mentoring in the past? Do you mentor at the moment?
See, I've got several businesses. I'm a business investor. I realize that in Serbia there's a lot of talented young people. So what I do is I either buy up small businesses or I take up young college students or maybe young professionals who have a passion to do something. Give an example. One of the midwives that were delivering my wife, they happened to be passionate about what they did, but they didn't have the funding to push their business forward. And I was in a lucky position or fortunate position to have the right tools to maybe advise or fund or push that business in the right direction. And when I did that, I realized, you know what, I think I could do more of this. And now we're in the process of, apart from mentoring, we're also trying to open the Chamber of Commerce for Malawi here in Serbia. We might not call it the Chamber of Commerce, but there's a huge gap between Africa and the Balkan region. There is no embassies here, there's no connection. So we're working with a lot of young people, a lot of young talents from both sides to showcase the art, to showcase their businesses, to showcase their investments, to see how they can cross the border and actually make something of themselves. So this word mentoring, I just see it as life. So yes, I'm very much involved in life.
It's amazing. I mean, the other question is, do you have the time to be a mentor for CORE?
always the time to give back. Always the time to give back. I mean, to be honest, you see, I'm a strong believer in energy, right? You have to balance the equation. Mentoring and giving back is not something you should be applauded for. It's something you should balance. If you're in a fortunate position, you have to balance the scale. Otherwise, it may tip not in your favor. It's a duty that I have to do. So I have to make time to balance the equation.
Yeah, and as well as it being so rewarding, I'm sure there's so much that you learn as well from people you mentor and the experiences and seeing those people achieve their dreams. I mean, it's rewarding, but also I'm sure you learn a lot from it as well.
You know what a success of every business is? Yeah, it's communication, body language, right? It's understanding different mentalities, different brain structures, different energies. So when you're mentoring somebody, you really see and learn a lot from them, especially here. I mean, I learned a lot about the community by integrating myself in the community, about how people think. So when I see and analyze somebody's behavior, it helps me in my businesses, because I say, I've seen that before somewhere. I've mentored that before somewhere. You know, like I said to you, people don't change. We were at 14, at 34, we're exactly the same people. So just because somebody is 25 and is passionate about their business, it doesn't mean that you can't learn from them. Or somebody's 65 and they're full of knowledge. No, see, it's these people that you're working with on a daily basis, you learn plenty that you can use on the next journey and make you more successful if that's what you are striving for.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with you as well. I mean, with my career as well, I've naturally just developed so many mentors, and it's not a matter of asking people, do you want to be my mentor? It's just naturally just developed. And I think without them, I don't think I would be where I am now. So, you know, big appreciation to all the mentors out there.
But also you must feel good when you do, I don't know, when there comes a certain time in your career when it's not money you're chasing. It's mainly that that feeling you have in yourself to say, I've done something good, and that's what you chase at a certain stage in life.
Yeah, definitely. So going back to the industry, you know, with all the work going on with Core and everything else going on around the world, do you see the industry changing in terms of becoming more diverse, ethnically diverse? And how do you see that in the, in the next 5 years or 10 years, let's say?
I mean, to be honest, you guys have really made a big step. That question Core is the answer to that. From back then to what you guys have achieved now and what you guys are trying to do and succeeding in trying to do. This interview alone, the platform you have and the audience and it's not easy to dedicate time after work. I mean, we're having this interview after your working hours. I'm sure you're busy during the day, but you're already giving and inspiring a lot of us to keep supporting. So it is changing, see, every day, and it will change. But I think it will change for the better. There'll be a less divide and more synergy and more, the lines will become blurry. There won't be any more races and this, that. It's the question you should be asking is, what are you going to do when it's all fixed?
I know, there won't be any Core left. But I guess that's what we dream of, isn't it? Coming to a time where you don't need initiatives like Core, and it's race or, stuff like that. It's not something you even have to think about. So yeah, I mean, coming from a business owner's perspective, I mean, how do you feel or even think, or what do you even do now at the moment to maintain diversity and inclusion with Fieldscope International? I
mean, have you seen the brand? maybe go and meet the team. We are in Serbia.
Yeah.
Serbia is before I started, I mean, I've been here for 6 years now, but when I first landed, they may look European, but they have also suffered their own segregation and not racism, but divide. So I think us just being here in Serbia, in Bulgaria, in London, and we have actually a diverse team. I think one of the chaps that I have working for us here in Serbia, he's from Zambia. Imagine meeting a Zambian in Serbia and actually employ them into FSI, So we're already pushing boundaries by having offices in areas like this and having me as a managing director. Because I remember, when I started, I was 24. I was very insecure about being a young businessman and trying to win a contract from a pharma company, and I'm only 24, So I guess me being where I am now and being the color that I am is already diversity, I'd say.
You're making me feel like I should start my own business as well. Being that young, at such a young age to dream or to even start a business, that's really amazing. And also just being an ethnic business owner, when you first started Fieldscope International, was diversity on your mind? Was it something that you really wanted to implement in the business, or was it just something subconscious and it kind of just grew with the business?
Look, the government here, what they normally do is they haven't really understood diversity of race. For example, in Sofia and in Serbia, it's more a case of disability. Governments always try to somehow diversify the workforce. We had to take on board a certain amount of people with some difficulties or disability. But the race thing, to be honest, was never there because core wasn't there. So I'm glad that core is there, because now people are going to say, oh, you know, I'm not saying that being ethnic is disability, but it's good to have change. It's good to have differences in the team, because maybe the thinking process might also be different, you know? So
Yeah.
there was no sort of like any rule of thumb. But I think companies should look at it just purely because diversity invites passion. When you have people from different walks of life, in fact, I would even say not go as far as diversity, but go as far as maybe having from different corners of the world and diverse, you know, because they bring a different passion and a different energy. It shouldn't be a requirement. It should be something that companies should look at and think, you know what, I recognize if I bring together a group of people that think differently, my brand, my business is going to move forward quicker just because of the different dynamics and challenges that people are bringing to the table.
I can agree with you, because I mean I've read several articles where people have done research, and it's proven that a business that's diverse, ethnically diverse, is actually more successful. You know, the teams are more successful. There's so many different perspectives, and you get way more out of it. A bit like, you know, having women in the workforce, more women in the workforce is, you know, there's research proven that it's a more successful brand, and you will get better results. So it's not even just the fact that, you know, your company should be more diverse. There's so many benefits to it, you know. So yeah, I agree with you.
The thing about it is that, look, in my last 20 years, right? So 15, I started working until now I'm 34, 19 years. I was stretched the most when I had to move. So my transition from Malawi to London, that learning process, I grew so much. Transition from London to the Balkan region, that I grew. And knowing and talking, like, Serbia is a very difficult market to operate in, extremely difficult, especially if you're an ethnic minority and you're trying to break in. It's they've got their clicks, but that struggle, Sia, when like, there's a saying that iron can only be formed when it's heated and when under pressure, you know? So I think for companies, when they invite diversity at the beginning, it's difficult because you're trying to, I mean, in HR, you're trying to merge different backgrounds to work together. But when you get it to click, what you get is absolutely fantastic. I've seen it. I see it every day. My son is a quarter Montenegrin, a quarter Serbian, a quarter Malawian, and obviously he's got the English passport, right? So he's got four identities in him. And I look at him and I'm like, you know, when you mix, you get the best of both worlds, you know? So why it's the proof is in the pudding, you know? Why are we not mixing? Why are we not seeing that for an organization to work, you need to have diversity? It's a no-brainer.
You mentioned also that, you know, it's not something people think about. So I mean, can you think of any blind spots that people from a white background, for example, may not consider when thinking about diversity, or you know, looking at having a more diverse workforce, or any barriers, for example?
It's easy to have same people, right? It's easy for me to work with just Malawians. It's easy for me to have a Malawian wife, because culturally we're the same, you know, and we would talk and have different signs that maybe we only us can understand, you know. But there is a transition where, for example, when I met my wife, being from a different culture, there's a transition that's very difficult to break, that you need to go through. So the barrier could be that people may give up because it's too difficult. It's too difficult to employ Peter because he's a student, and if I need to do his work visa, I need to pay extra. Why am I going to bother? Or it's too difficult to sit in a meeting with somebody that has an accent that's African, because I need to ask a few times, can you repeat that? Or maybe to mention his name, or maybe do I need to tiptoe around the fact that he's different from me and I might offend him? But so the barrier is that sticking point, but that's business, right? In business, the rule of thumb is if you can survive the first 3 years, then you're going to see better days, you know? So when companies realize that there will be a sticking point, there will be a core that has to go through a lot of scrutiny. But when you go through that, And then when you see what comes out after, that's the sweet point of it. So I don't know if I've addressed the question properly, Sia, but the barrier is it's not easy, but you need to go through the hurdle to come out the other side.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just taking that step, isn't it? And just seeing the benefits and what the results can be. So the final question from our side is, what advice would you give to someone with a similar background to you starting in the market research industry?
I would say, look, get a good mentor, right? Don't there's no need to get things wrong. Time is more precious than money, to be honest with you, or more precious than anything, because really we work because we want to spend more time with the people we love, right? So if you can learn from mentors, if you can learn from core, if you can tag yourself to something that maybe might be close to your heart and you can understand better, don't get it wrong. There's no point in you getting it wrong. And with agencies and organizations like yours that are willing to help just because of the goodness of seeing a better tomorrow for our market research industry, take the help. Listen so you can be better tomorrow.
Guru Peter, I think that wraps up that wraps up everything. Your story and also your successful journey I'm sure will be really inspiring and motivating for a lot of people watching this, and especially for those ethnic professionals even thinking about starting a business at 24. Go for it. But yeah, that's amazing. Is there anything else you'd like to add for our viewers?
But I just want to say thank you to Core for including me in this. And to be honest with you, even if this can resonate in one person's corner and just change somebody's life slightly, then job done. Let's start changing a life at a time, or an ethnic mindset at a time. And hopefully tomorrow, then there won't be any lines. It'll just be one people, one nation. So thank you for including him in this. And I'm always glad to give back and to be part of something that's going to be great. So thank you very much.
To find out more about Fieldscope International and their healthcare, B2B and consumer panels, visit fieldscopeint.com. Our guest today, Chulu, has kindly volunteered to mentor up-and-coming ethnically diverse professionals in the market research industry. For more information on the Colour of Research, Each One Teach One mentorship program, visit colourofresearch.org/mentoring. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe for more ethnically diverse market research success stories.